Making ladders out of cowboy sheets. We will be gone while we're counting stars, they're counting sheep. Peter, all the rest don't make a sound. Just keep running and keep running and keep running. In our heads we're 10 feet off the ground. Just keep running and keep running, keep running, keep running. Putting lights between us, sleeping awake.
Welcome back to another day of the MKE LoL tournament. We are going to be starting a game very shortly, but we do have a few brief announcements to make.
First, we'd like to thank everyone, I guess, for contributing to our 100 follower celebration.
That is true, and it is a fantastic milestone that we've reached, and we would like to thank the most recent followers we've had. We have recently had the followers You Know the Kid, Eclipsed, JStick12, XFierceX, Drock and Jock, K-Face, Giving You Hints, MD4 or Riot, and Jeremy Chu Lowell. thank you for helping make this 100 followers just absolutely incredible for us.
All right. So with that, now that we've kind of gone through our announcements, again, thank you guys for following us. We will go ahead and get into draft. There we go.
This time we have Final Light Gaming on the red side and Los Payasos on the blue. They will be taking the first ban of the game, which is going to be a Janna.
Right. Janna's been pretty significant for the most part. She has been either a pick ban champion for pretty much the entire tournament, unless there have been targeted bans for specific people. Warwick, not as targeted, not as common in terms of being banned, but at the same time, Warwick does have quite a bit of impact in the games he's typically playing, especially if he has a dive team comp to run with.
Yes, and he functions very, very well, especially when looking to try to get those picks with his ultimate. It would not be surprising if we saw Final Light Gaming looking to try to possibly do a more passive style game.
Right. And then with it's actually kind of funny seeing that Nocturne ban, because that almost implies that Los Payasos might try and pull what they did in our first game yesterday. If you guys remember, they played a Nocturne top, and apparently that was a lot better than a lot of people initially thought it was going to turn out, as Nocturne did end up carrying quite a bit. So looks like Final Light took advantage of that intel and want to make sure that that did not happen again.
And we are seeing the last ban come through as Sejuani, with a Jarvan 4 and a Caitlyn on the side being banned out by Los Payasos. Now, this Sejuani ban, while she has been very impactful, especially with the pick potential on her ultimate, we haven't seen her come through as frequently. It's going to be interesting seeing what people are going to be picking up. And we see a Xayah grabbed by Los Payasos as the first pick.
Right. Very strong ADC, someone who's always been pretty consistent in terms of seeing them in Worlds competition. I'm going to say definitely showing that there's quite a bit of potential with that champion. She's kind of weird in terms of mobility, but at the same time, she's definitely a first pick if you have an ADC that's capable of truly playing her to her full potential. Same thing goes with Tristana. Really high potential in terms of the damage. She's definitely a hyper carry when things start to get a little crazy towards the mid or late game. Having the protection of a Lulu definitely helps her get to that point a lot faster, as she's able to play a little more riskier early on to try and get the early kills necessary to kind of advance the game a little bit for her.
And we are seeing a Rakan come out as the support pick for Los Payasos, and a Trundle that may end up being top lane in all likelihood. The Rakan Xayah combo is exceedingly important for Los Payasos, as now they have a significant lane advantage. While Lulu and Tristana make a very powerful team, when you have the combined power that Xayah and Rakan both give each other with that couple matchup, they are contributing so much more to the early and throughout the game than, as far as utility and distance, Rakan can use to engage, than that Lulu might be able to contribute.
Right. Also, with the increased damage output coming from Xayah's W, using Rakan as a platform for that skill as well, is definitely going to make it so that trades early on will definitely not be beneficial for Tristana or Lulu for that matter. So they're definitely going to have to be on their guard a little bit more, play a little more passively if they plan to get out of the laning phase kind of unscathed. With that, we also now have an Ahri and a Fiora ban. Again, it looks like Final Light's more worried about the dive potential on a lot of people, and it was probably a good idea that they got rid of the Orianna as well, considering Rakan has the capacity to pretty much run in. Orianna goes ahead and ults, and he can pretty much go almost the entire screen's length in terms of dashing back to Xayah, now that both of them are going to be played in this game together. Fiora definitely would stop a lot of Okay, would definitely stop a lot of the damage that could possibly be coming out for their top lane, or might make it so that they have to put a little more pressure on their top in order to keep Fiora from snowballing. Same thing with Caston a little bit. But that's interesting. We got an Urgot pick.
Now, Urgot right now, with his recent changes, he may have a slightly weaker early game in the fact that his legs come off cooldown with that shotgun capability a little slower, and now it doesn't scale with cooldown reduction like most other abilities. But his Q now activates faster, making it so much easier to hit. And when you get to the late game, his legs come off cooldown almost as fast as they go on it, enabling a skilled Urgot player to essentially kite around someone, especially as tanky as a Cho'Gath, getting consistent damage, wearing him down, and hitting him where it hurts over and over, especially if he can make it out of the laning phase.
Right. Which, in all honesty, we're going to see quite a few Urgot ults, and that's been pretty terrifying to actually see, in all honesty. I like playing Urgot a lot, at least the new one, and I like knowing that the execution works the way it works, but I had a chance to play against one a few weeks ago, and wasn't really all that excited to see the chains go over my screen and me get pulled in and immediately killed. So we'll see whether or not that might have a psychological effect on some of the players moving forward. Also, it looks like we're going to have a Cassiopeia and a Corki along with a Rek'Sai in order to kind of fill out the rest of our teams. Cassiopeia is going to be great, in all honesty, for keeping people where they are. Rek'Sai won't be able to do any of her dashes or tunnels. Corki won't be able to Valkyrie out. Tristana won't be able to rocket jump. In fact, Urgot wouldn't even be able to do his dash and flip. So Cassiopeia was definitely a good choice in terms of possibly preventing a lot of movement-based things. There's still quite a bit of die potential on Final Light in terms of their team comp, but at the same time, that's perfectly fine for Cassiopeia, I think.
Yeah, and one of the things that is really going to be interesting is whether this Cassiopeia will be able to exert dominance over this Corki pre-level 6. While Corki gets a massive, massive power spike in his ability to poke and clear waves at level 6 with his missiles, he lacks a lot of that ability to consistently push in and deliver that damage that he can get with Ashin and rockets at level 6. And if Cassiopeia can take advantage, especially at level 4 when you're getting a nice power spike as you're putting a second point in E as well as having your Q and Miasma up to prevent his escape, we are going to see that as the key point in time for Cassiopeia to flex advantages she has, to try to get that advantage over Corki before he can end up poking her down, and if he can play right, stay out of range of her as well.
Right. And also I like to look a little bit at this jungle matchup just because I think that might play a massive part in whether or not anyone's really going to take an advantage in a future situation. I think it's kind of interesting that Trundle got picked up because most of the time you think of Trundle as an anti-tank, tank for that matter, but in this game he's going to have a kind of a hard time trying to figure out who he's going to necessarily take stats from. Urgot typically gets played as a tank, and Rek'Sai can be played tanky, but at the same time they can be played with a high attack ratio as well. So Trundle, as much as he might be great, I mean, he does have his bite. That does allow him to steal AD as well. So that definitely will be helpful in these situations like this. But his ult, I guess the power of his ult will be a little bit limited considering unless one of those two goes straight tank, pure tank, he's not going to be able to get the full benefit out of that. And I'm kind of wondering whether or not that's going to hurt Los Payasos moving forward. Rek'Sai, again, she's going to have her picks, and she's definitely going to be probably going after Xayah and Cassiopeia, but Xayah does have a way to get out of that ult. As soon as Rek'Sai starts her movement towards Xayah, all Xayah has to do is just jump back with her ult, and pretty much she's out of the whole situation. They're going to need to get Xayah if they plan on actually winning a lot of these team fights. So it's going to come down to whether or not Corki or Tristana can get in there fast enough, because once Xayah goes up, she has a few seconds to kind of move around, and then she comes down, and then that's pretty much it. Corki and Tristana have to be already in position to kind of give Xayah a reason to kind of regret using it before those two get involved. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of things going on here, and I'm kind of wondering how everyone's going to handle the interactions with the enemy champions on the other side, just because everything isn't necessarily as straightforward as it would be in most situations, I think.
And how right you are. And I would like to look at that top lane matchup just very briefly once again. What we're seeing is two champions, both of which can have enormous impact. While Cho'Gath has a lot more CC potential, Urgot has a lot more straight up damage potential,
Right.
especially when he gets into the middle of a fray. When you have that AoE blast effect, it can be very effective. And Cho'Gath's, one of his biggest strengths is his ability to finish off people with his ultimate ability.
Right.
That bite does enormous amounts of damage, and it is a fantastic finisher. However, the Urgot pick also has a finisher himself. When he
Right.
lands the chains and pulls someone in, it can be the Cho'Gath. As long as they're below a certain percentage of health, they are dead, no questions asked.
Right. And there's also some other really strange interactions with that Urgot ult as well, so we'll have to see whether or not some things might decide to go a little funny later on. But at that same time, you also have to consider that, Urgot can ult, Urgot can pull people in, but it takes a second for that to happen. My question is, will anyone be able to burst down Urgot fast enough in that situation? Maybe, it depends. Especially if Urgot is not necessarily aiming for Cho'Gath. Whoa.
The loading screen did take a bit of time, so we now are 45 seconds into this game. We are seeing some basic looking scouting for the teams. It appears they are just trying to get a feel for where each other are. We are seeing a little bit of action though.
And Trundle might have bit off a little more than he can chew. He has to burn Flash as the entire Final Light bottom side of the map decides to converge on him. Let me say so. Advantage is definitely in Final Light's court. Looks like Cassiopeia is going to take a little bit of damage from Urgot, who waited for it to walk by. There's currently a ward there now, so hopefully they'll find out whether or not Rek'Sai is actually going to be going that route. The problem is Rek'Sai doesn't need to take a direct route there.
We are seeing a classic blue buff start from both of these sides. Trundle, however, not receiving a leash. He does have a lot of innate healing and a lot of innate damage, so he might be trying to let Trundle or let Cho'Gath and his bot laners get that extra time in lane so they have a small amount of XP advantage as this game continues.
Right.
Cho'Gath would go even, but bot lane does have a slight advantage, and it looks like they are
Gonna try and push for it. There's quite a bit of damage coming out from both Xayah and Rakan. I'm going to say very sneaky move by Xayah and Rakan. They were able to burn Lulu's Flash, though, so right now we already have a pretty exciting game. 2 flashes are down, one for each team, and yeah, it looks like we are going to be looking at a lot of strategy going on here.
We are seeing them taking advantage of that powerful bot lane combo that we were talking about earlier with the Xayah and Rakan both able to buff each other. It seems we've seen a W start here from this Xayah for that extra attack speed on that engage. We will be seeing how this ends up playing out, but right now there is not a whole lot of action going down across the field. It seems that Final Light does have a small, minuscule gold lead, but it's not going to matter a whole lot as this game continues and no one is forced to back yet.
Right. Still way early in the game, and it looks like there might be a problem here with this Rek'Sai. She's going to go ahead and die. Meanwhile, Trundle is trying to fight off Corki, but he is unable to do so. But now Corki is on the wrong side of the map. Cassiopeia gets double killed. Not a great situation for Corki when he comes back, but at the same time, good job on Los Payasos for being aware of the Rek'Sai, trying to come in and converging on her position.
2 things about that play. 1, it is so important that Cassiopeia was able to get those 2 kills early. Corki may have gotten one, but Cassiopeia is still up some 10 CS as well as a kill on this Corki as far as gold advantage.
Right.
If she can transfer that into early game items, which she's backing to do, it is very likely that she will be able to significantly put pressure on this Corki and drive him further behind, as this game has yet to get to Corki's strong point. Secondly, she now has both red and blue buff, allowing her to throw out so much aggro without having to worry about the cost of on her mana pool of using that E so consistently.
Right, and it looks like she ended up buying a Tear of the Goddess and a Ruby Crystal and a Mana Crystal. That's probably going to be going into a Catalyst, and from there it's probably going to be going into, well, it is going into a Rod of Ages. Right now, she got all that money, but she didn't necessarily get any damage. The thing is, that typically takes a little bit of time in terms of oh wow, nice move by Trundle, throwing out the pillar, stopping the Urgot from moving forward, causes Urgot to burn his flash, and that was definitely a successful gank, I would say, for Trundle. But yeah, she bought a lot of support, or kind of long-term items. Tear of the Goddess takes a little bit of time to build up, but she's getting more mana, and she's also refunding mana every time she goes ahead and uses a spell. That'll turn into Archangel Staff at some point, and that will become quite significant in terms of the amount of damage she's going to be able to throw out because of that. She is also going for a Rod of Ages. Rod of Ages takes a few minutes in order to actually build, but it then takes 10 minutes to get the full benefits of having that item. So, essentially, she went from possibly taking 20 to 25 minutes to get her items to actually start doing something to cutting that down to probably having all of those items within maybe 10, 12 minutes. Once she gets those things, it's going to be pretty difficult to keep her down because she's going to have quite a bit of potential to throw down damage to the point where it just may not be worth it to try and fight her alone.
Absolutely. And let's briefly mention the top lane scenario. With that Trundle gank, Urgot was forced to burn flash. It's on cooldown now. Cho'Gath still has his flash. Both of them have their teleports down for at least another 2 minutes. So if any of them are forced to back out of lane, like Urgot...
Oh, and Urgot just chainsawed Cho'Gath. Yeah, I think he just barely hit 6 and was able to pull off that maneuver pretty quick as a result.
That's what we were talking about earlier with that finisher damage. Both of them have it. It's just Cho'Gath was the one to take, or Urgot took full advantage of it and won the trade super significantly in his favor.
Right. I mean, it's kind of interesting considering that Cho'Gath literally maybe a few seconds before that had actually chose to consume a minion. So, I don't know. Cho'Gath might be a little more paranoid about it from now on, but chances are I don't think Cho'Gath would have a complete reason not to do that. But there should be a little more thought in terms of when to use ults. You never know when they might all of a sudden be super useful, regardless of whatever your champion is.
And let's look back at mid lane. We are seeing this Cassiopeia having taken the lead ever so slightly further forward, but it isn't as significant as we would have hoped. This Corki now has level 6. He's able to sit back and poke, and the Cassiopeia is throwing aggro, but we're not seeing any significant damage to push him out of lane completely coming through. Right. And that's something that Cassiopeia is going to need to step up if they want to make sure that this Corki doesn't become a late game threat, especially when Corki hits that 2-item power spike of Trinity Force and then IE. Because when Corki has that, the damage from the crits is 90% magic damage, and it comes through almost as hard as a Tristana crit.
Right. You're saying that's always been one of the really interesting things about Corki, the fact that all of his auto attacks are split in terms of their damage type. He does attack damage and magic damage for every auto attack that he does. Definitely helping to round out a team composition, as his damage output can potentially take the place of another AP mid laner or it could possibly be used in an ADC type manner. Like I said, it just kind of definitely makes it so that there's a few more options in terms of how your team can be built. And nice to see that Corki is definitely going to be in a position to take advantage of that within a few either months or years in this situation. Not thinking of the wrong time. Anyway, he'll be able to take advantage of that later on in the game.
Corki, we were hoping to see him make a very proactive play, and he may still have time left to do that with the package, but it looks based off his move speed that has expired. That's a huge power spike and huge winning opportunity.
Oh, and here comes Rek'Sai. She's going in. Rakan decides to dash in, throw down a little bit of damage on this Tristana, but Lulu goes ahead, throws down. Oh, we have teleports coming in from the top lane. Cho'Gath is coming in, trying to get this Corki down. Looks like Cassiopeia is here now too. Looks like Corki is not going anywhere. Urgot thought he was going to teleport in, but it's too late. He would have been surrounded by 5 people on Los Payasos. So with that, we have a 5-2 team fight, and it looks like the bottom tower is going to be going down shortly after.
Urgot is working hard to try to see if he can match it, but it does not look like he's going to be able to get the first tower blood off of that. That's going to be a significant gold advantage that goes to Los Payasos, giving them even more of a lead as they're now approximately 2k gold ahead of the team Final Light Gaming.
Right. And it looks like Los Payasos might be in a position to just rotate towards Dragon. They are. They're going to go ahead and take Earth Dragon. And say, all in all, that was a very, very successful maneuver, I think. They were able to get an incredible amount of real estate out of that. A lot of objectives as well. So it was a great choice on Los Payasos in terms of forcing that team fight in bot lane.
That is very true, but it looks like Final Light Gaming is not about to let the opportunity that Urgot created with his pressure top to go to waste. We see Rek'Sai in the Rift Herald pit looking to try to take that down. Doesn't look like Los Payasos have any vision of this going on. Will they be rotating up there themselves? They are doing a classic lane swap, taking their Xayah and Rakan and putting them top lane, trying to get that top turret down in their favor as Cho'Gath attempts to hold bot lane.
Right. And that's definitely... Oh, and it looks like Rakan's coming in on Rek'Sai. Gets the kill on Rek'Sai. Chances are Rakan might be able to go ahead and get this Rift Herald as well, but... Oh, it looks like Urgot will take it instead, and Rakan's going to go ahead and get out of there. But he gets ulted by the Urgot, and Urgot takes him down. Corki goes down in the meantime against Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia now has an Abyssal Mask. Oh, okay, so she went Abyssal Mask. And, yeah, this is not looking so great for pretty much anyone on Final Light at this point in terms of actually seeing a Cassiopeia later on in the game.
And one thing to note, though, is they may have lost. They went even in that fight around Rift Herald. Or rather, they did actually go negative with the Rek'Sai dying at the very beginning. But the fact that Urgot was able to pick that Rift Herald up and now has it that he can drop in one of the side lanes, that will create opportunities and pressure points that will allow Final Light Gaming to make a push or make a play on Los Payasos, possibly giving them a door back into this game.
Right. But at the same time, it is not going to be a big door because it looks like Rakan and Xayah are going in after this Urgot, and they get the kill. Meanwhile, in bot, Rek'Sai goes ahead and unfortunately gets picked off by Cho'Gath, Trundle, and Cassiopeia, who lands the last hit.
Now, 2 members of Final Light are down. We're seeing Los Payasos take advantage of this, and they're looking to push in top turret, as well as seeing if they can get any advantages mid. They're also sending the Cho'Gath bot, trying to get the waves in their favor, creating a forced play where Final Light will have to rotate bot, giving more opportunities on other parts of the map for Los Payasos to play.
Right. And it was definitely a good move on their part to try and get that split going. Because in this game, putting people in difficult situations where they have to make really difficult decisions is what essentially will be the difference between victory and a loss. Los Payasos is doing an incredible job at forcing people to make decisions like that. So we'll just have to see whether or not Final Light can handle that type of mind game, I guess.
Let's talk briefly about the Abyssal Mask purchased by Cassiopeia. This is going to be very effective in limiting the burst potential that Corki has. Corki, while he's a marksman type champion, his role in the mid lane is primarily to do powerful burst combos on enemies as they approach. And due to the fact that Abyssal Mask was coming through, Cassiopeia is able to drive Corki out of lane. Her team rotates in from the bot pressure they created, forcing Urgot to go back, as we were talking about earlier, and they get a tower mid off of it. Urgot did drop the Rift Herald and is hoping that that's going to end up taking the tower, but time will tell as Cassiopeia is rotating in to stop that.
Right. Yeah, sometimes the set it and forget it Rift Herald is not necessarily the best use of it, but at the same time, you got to use it, otherwise it might actually disappear completely. So I'd say so much for getting that first tower, or that second tower, I guess, for Final Light. They were unable to land the Rift Herald in a position where he was able to actually take the entire tower. There's quite a bit of damage on that tower, nonetheless, but it definitely didn't help. And it looks like Cassiopeia is being caught out. Everyone kind of flashes and dives in to go get her. Urgot didn't really have a chance, though. He was fighting against 4 separate people. Lulu tried to help, but was unable to make anything necessarily matter. Corki is still running for his life right now. He gets pillared, and I don't know if he's necessarily going to make it out of this situation, but it looks like Blue Team has had enough of the chasing and decides to go back mid after taking a few little buffs.
Now, Los Payasos has taken their lead from that early game advantage they got with the double kill on that Cassiopeia. And look at where they are now. They have not yet lost any significant fight and have been gaining pressure slowly but surely, never overextending and taking advantage of the opportunities that they do have. And now look at them. They are 4K gold up, giving them a very solid lead over Final Light Gaming. Final Light does still have a chance to stay in the game, but right now they're mostly looking for a mistake from Los Payasos and looking to take that opportunity and play off that. It's going to be very hard for them to make any proactive plays themselves unless there is a significant macro game or map side play that is messed up by Los Payasos.
Right. And it's really starting to show that Los Payasos is kind of feel like they came into these games with some sort of plan or some sort of strategy, because it seems like they are a lot more organized in terms of handling their objectives or going after specific targets. Like right now, there are currently 5 people in bot ready to take this Ocean Drake. Just ready to go. Final Light is definitely showing that they're a little more in a reflexive situation. They're definitely in a little more of a reflective. Sorry about that. That was a early morning alarm. And it looks like Urgot's going to get caught out by the Rakan and Trundle, and Urgot gets a giant bite taken out of him. Looks like only the machine is left as Cho'Gath continues to move forward.
And that was a fantastic play by Los Payasos. They were capitalizing off their ability to get so much pressure inside the jungle.
Oh, and it looks like we got another team fight here. Rakan jumps in, and so many people get killed because of that. Rek'Sai, Tristana, and Lulu all die from that single Rakan knockup. Cassiopeia gets the kill on them, but Rakan gets the kill on Corki, and Zaya gets that last kill. It is not looking so great for Final Light Gaming. Not much more they can do. They're going to have to figure out some plan to kind of stop the bleeding now, because otherwise, if they don't, this is going to pretty much lead to a very demanding and very absolute defeat, I guess.
However, they do still have their base intact. That is one thing that very frequently cannot be underestimated when you're in a defensive situation. If you still have all 3 of your inhibitor turrets and all 3 of your inhibitors up, it makes it that much harder for Los Payasos to find any way into your base. They do, however, have an 8k gold deficit, meaning that there is over 1,000 gold difference on each of these people on average.
Right.
This is going to be very crucial for Los Payasos, as now they might have enough of a gold lead in order to actually puncture through that outer defensive perimeter and straight up go for a dive into the middle of Final Light's base.
And even if they choose not to take that dive, Baron is about to be up in 10 seconds. It looks like Los Payasos is actually clearing out vision right now. Unfortunately, Final Light is trying to stage themselves in a position to kind of react to a situation involving Baron, but they didn't know that a ward was literally where they were all standing, at least 3 members of Final Light. So we're going to see whether or not we get a little bit of a team fight. If chances are, if Los Payasos is able to win that team fight with at least 4 members, they are probably going to go ahead and end, and I like this. They're using the terrain to their advantage. They're able to kind of set up for hiding. If anyone walks past the wrong spot, that's pretty much going to be the end of them. But yeah, it looks like Final Light definitely recognizes the fact that a Baron is completely possible by Los Payasos, and they need to be in a position to defend it.
And one of the things that you have to look at right now is the vision game. And right now, Los Payasos have complete control around the Baron area. There is a meager 1 ward in a bush that is not even giving vision of Baron itself as far as Final Light goes. Los Payasos quickly and efficiently removed all vision. That way, if they back out of view, Final Light has no choice but to assume they're going for Baron. This means that they could either go for Baron, or they could go for or they could fake out Baron and hold, trying to get a pick on one of Final Light's members. But it appears they're just going to pull the trigger. A pink ward does give vision for Final Light, though, as Los Payasos go for the Baron.
And Cho'Gath is going to go ahead and teleport in, probably to help with the smite on this Baron. But Rek'Sai is ready to go ahead and tunnel in. Rek'Sai tunnels in, and it looks like Cassiopeia gets the kill on Baron. Rek'Sai immediately goes down after. It was a nice attempt on Rek'Sai's part to try and go ahead and steal the Baron, but she just was unable to do so. Right now, it's a 4-man defense for Final Light. I don't know if they're going to necessarily be able to do it, but they're going to have to come up with something if they plan on staying in this game.
With this lead and with this Baron, we are now seeing Los Payasos just going to try to finish. They break open the inhibitor turrets, and they're looking for more.
Right, and it looks like Lulu's going to be one of the first victims of the base dive situation. Cassiopeia is trying to live, but it doesn't look like she's going to be able to, as she gets chainsawed by Urgot. Zaya goes ahead and gets a kill on Rek'Sai, and she also apparently gets a kill on Corki as well. It also looks like the mid inhib is going to be going down, along with the bot inhib turret and the bottom inhib. It looks like this might be the end of this first game. However, chances are, I'm assuming that Los Payasos is probably about to back out. You don't want to stay in a place like this for too long. Otherwise, things tend to turn out poorly.
Fortunately for Final Light Gaming, closing is the most vulnerable part for a lot of these teams. And as you're going for those double Nexus turrets stacked on top of each other, there are opportunities for people like that Urgot to go in and shred the tanks that are absorbing the damage for the minions. Urgot came in, he stopped that Cho'Gath from being able to walk away and locked them down long enough for them to be able to force Los Payasos to back. And they're looking for a Drake on the back end of that fight, knowing that the minions will take a little while longer to actually exert pressure inside their base.
So very much so, and it looks like the minions are making their move though. Meanwhile, it looks like Los Payasos is trying to figure out what their next move is. It looks like some of them are starting to rotate towards top, considering top is pretty much their last set of towers to take. Kind of seems like that will make sense to let the super minions push, create some pressure on their own, and then decide to probably finish up the game that way.
Now, to me, what I am seeing here is there is a very strong gold lead in every lane area except for top lane. Top lane Urgot, with that later game scaling that he now has, is going to be the win condition, and how Final Light will have to be relying on him to win these fights. It's going to be very difficult, but as we saw last time, Urgot was able to grab that Cassiopeia and destroy her, finishing her off and forcing the first step backwards out of the base from Los Payasos. We are seeing a little bit of a strategy, hiding behind the train, seeing if a pick can be gotten if someone falls out of position, but Los Payasos not falling for it, catching them out with the Baron empowered minions going under tower and just slowly pushing into the base.
Right, and I think Final Light realized that it wasn't necessarily a good idea to try and defend that inner top tower. Meanwhile, super minions are still pushing in. Urgot goes to react to those guys at the Nexus towers. Meanwhile, Los Payasos decides to go in on their final outer base turret. It also looks like they're going to be taking this top inhib as well. But at the same time, here we go. We got a team fight going in. Rakan goes in, ends up getting Tristana, and Tristana goes down to Xayah. Rek'Sai is running, but she gets caught by Cassiopeia. Xayah also gets Urgot as the fight progresses. The last Nexus turret goes down, and it looks like Los Payasos is going to be taking game one of this game 3 series, or 3-game series, with Final Light Gaming.
Just a few more moments and we are going to be seeing the game close as the Nexus detonates. That was a very decisive team fight win by Los Payasos at the very end. What I saw was they took advantage of the fact that Tristana was ever so slightly out of position, using Rakan and Xayah, giving Rakan massive engage potential, crossing the map in lightning speed, making it so that Tristana could not escape. Bursted down one of the major damage dealers out of the game right then. The fight is easily wiped up as Los Payasos took advantage of all of those early game team fight wins and snowballing that they were working so hard on earlier to secure the game and the advantage in this series.
Right. And again, it looks like Los Payasos definitely had a strategy coming into this game. You could tell by the way that their map movement was set up, how they did a lot of objective control, how they pretty much knew that there's no reason for us to be in specific places because other things are about to be taken care of for that situation. Definitely showing that Los Payasos was ready and willing to kind of get to that point where they felt 100% comfortable with how the game was going to progress. And it's going to be interesting to see how Final Light decides to react to that and what plans they decide to come up with in order to counter that specific situation that they seem to be finding themselves in quite often. With that, we're going to go ahead and take a small break while we get this next game set up. So we'll see you guys in a few minutes. And welcome back to the second game of Final Light versus Los Payasos. Los Payasos went ahead and took game one in this best of three series, and now we are going to get right into the bands. Starting off, we have a Jenna and a Nocturne band. Looks like pretty much the same two bands that we had from the previous game starting off. Same ideas, I guess, but at the same time, we're going to have to see Final Light do something different in terms of their bands, because they have to come up with a strategy to kind of counteract the Los Payasos kind of doing their own thing throughout that entire game.
And one thing to note is that Final Light chose red side. They struggled on it the first game, but this seems to be the side where they are most comfortable. With that counter pick, it seems like they are heavily looking, especially towards their mid laner last game, for that counter pick ability. We see Azaya and Rakan ban, both different from last game, looking to split up that pair, as it looks like Los Payasos were expecting the pair to be snatched up by Final Light during their first double pick phase.
Right. Also, that is kind of interesting that they both did end up getting banned out. It looks like Final Light definitely understood that Rakan was kind of part of the reason why they didn't necessarily do so well in team fights. That dash, knock up, and then charm was pretty effective in terms of being CC for the entire team, because typically Final Light did group up quite a bit. So we're going to see whether or not they just decide to still stick with champions that like to group together or kind of move as one, or if they're going to try and go for someone who might have a more potential to kind of do things by themselves, or be looking to flank the enemy team as a team fight starts.
We are seeing a Jarvan picked up by Final Light Gaming. They're probably going to be looking for massive pick potential, perhaps on the mid lane target, especially if someone as immobile as Orianna is actually locked in.
Right.
This is actually going to be a potential vulnerability for Los Payasos. However, taking that Orianna was still a very good idea, because if they didn't, Final Light Gaming could have snatched that Orianna up, and we have seen them play that effectively, if I'm remembering correctly.
Right. In that situation, Kog'Maw would have way too many shields, so that would probably have been a really incredibly dangerous situation for Los Payasos. Now we're back into the second ban phase. Looks like Cho'Gath is going to be the first one to go down. Definitely was responsible for doing a lot of work against Final Light in this last game. Did get ulted by Urgot a few times, did get taken down, and it looks like Los Payasos didn't exactly appreciate the Urgot ulting and executing so many people throughout the entire game, so they're going to go ahead and take that next ban as well. But yeah, you're starting to get kind of an idea as to what the team comps are starting to look like. With Tristana and Kha'Zix and Orianna, it looks like they're going to be looking more towards a dive-heavy comp, or at least pursuit composition. Meanwhile, for the Final Light Gaming, they're going to be looking more towards kind of like a standard team fight, front line, back line kind of situation going on. Also, it looks like the next ban from Final Light is going to be a Trundle. And it looks like the last ban is going to be a Shen, which definitely makes sense considering that would be another shield for Kog'Maw.
And there are not a whole lot of tank champions left. This second ban phase might have actually swung very significantly in the direction of Final Light here. If they go and try to pick a top laner at this point in time, they end up picking Vlad, maybe looking to put him top, maybe looking to put him mid in all likelihood. But I was hoping that they would end up going for one of the big tanks. If you're looking for this frontline backline combo, especially with a Kog'Maw, you need that beefy frontline to take the damage for that Cog before they can get to him. And in my opinion, if they had locked in someone, for example, as Maokai, that would have been absolutely massive. We are seeing an unconventional Malphite pick here. Quite possibly a Malphite top lane looking to absorb damage and make it so he does not take much damage from any AD fighter they might be trying to throw top to gain advantage in that matchup.
Right. And yeah, like I said, this is, with the Taric pickup, that definitely shows that Los Payasos is definitely going to be looking to dive. Taric's ultimate allows a large area around him and whoever he's partnered with to actually become invulnerable. So if he merges with the right person and then ults, he can essentially protect the entire team as they're under tower. That could lead to some really incredibly dangerous situations, especially once Taric gets level 6. Because right now Malphite has his teleport, Kha'Zix can pretty much be wherever he wants as he's a jungler. So at that point, a 4-man dive and bot could potentially, no one would die in that situation. There's a really high chance that a really significant play can be made out of what Los Payasos is going to be running. And in in Final Light's side, looks like they definitely did look into getting some more beefy frontline work, as you were saying. They picked up the Sejuani, so they got the Sejuani and the J4. They're definitely going to be pretty good in terms of being in the front line. Definitely with J4 going in and ulting and then being followed up by a Sejuani ult, making things difficult for people in the crater to move around and the people who are trying to get around the crater to move around. So yeah, I think Final Light made a pretty comprehensive and together team comp, but I'm still a little more worried about Los Payasos' team comp in terms of their dive potential.
I completely agree. And when you combine that Orianna with her ability to shockwave and disrupt incredible amounts of the backline team's offensive power, as well as shred their health, combine that with the Malphite's ultimate delivery system doing even more damage and locking them down for even longer, it's going to make it very hard for Final Light to find a chance to actually have a team fight go in their favor. This is going to mean Final Light is going to have a lot less room for error, and it'll be a lot harder for them to get into a competitive spot in the game. However, if they can get that Sejuani ahead early and that Malphite making sure that he does not have any opportunity to get in and not have the tankiness to be a durable frontliner by focusing the top lane early, I think we can definitely see a swing towards Final Light side.
Right, but I will admit, though, Final Light is definitely taking a chance. Honestly, like, I know Vladimir does quite a bit of damage in terms of the AP front, but it does seem like they are putting quite a bit of hope on their Kog'Maw. I just hope that Kog'Maw is able to get ahead early and that Sejuani is able to kind of help Kog'Maw in that early game, because if Kog'Maw falls behind, that pretty much is, I want to say, at least 50 to 75% of their damage output in a team fight. So it's pretty much, I expect a lot of resources to be placed in Kog'Maw's hands, a lot of attention to be put in that bot lane. If we don't see at least if we don't see at least 2 to 3 different ganks for Final Light in the bot lane, I'd be kind of worried about whether or not Kog'Maw is actually going to be in a position to be where he needs to be in terms of a team comp like that later on.
Fortunately for their early game, they do have a Lulu on their side, meaning that even against the early game pressure that Tristana and Taric do have, as well as their defensive ability because of that, we are seeing a lane that can actually still survive when those bombs from Tristana go off. The Lulu, with her ability to shield, as well as disrupt the enemy team with her polymorph, and do some basic damage with her Glitter Lance ability, is definitely going to be doing a lot to help protect this Kog'Maw, which is going to be crucial for Final Light to keep going, and at the minimum, keep even with this Tristana if they want to have a chance in those later game team fights.
Right. And again, it's kind of interesting to see like the differences between the two strategies of both of these teams. You can definitely get the feeling that Los Payasos definitely knows that they kind of want to spread the, I guess, fun around in terms of who has the potential to do the most amount of work. In fact, it might almost be a race to them to see who can do the most amount of damage or get the most amount of kills, because with that type of team composition, it's almost as if it's a race to see who gets to the top first. Meanwhile, Final Light is more of a, all right, we're going to get together and we're going to make sure that this one guy's in front taking all the damage. This guy in the back should be able to take care of everything else that we need to, but you're kind of putting all the effort on one person, and I'm kind of wondering whether or not that will work in a situation like this. You have too many people who are willing to literally jump into a fight, and that's definitely going to play a significant part in how this game is going to progress and whether or not we're going to have a third game for this series.
And hopefully Final Light will be able to show up this game, and their Kog'Maw is going to be, as we've mentioned before, the backbone of that.
Right.
It'll be very interesting to see what happens. The Sejuani looks to be starting that red buff, looking for that level 3 engage towards the bot side. We are seeing some basic scouting going on, but nothing has actually been spotted out, and no one is going for any early game plays. This means that we should receive a relatively traditional start with some slightly untraditional picks like that Malphite top lane.
Right. And it's kind of interesting to look at the mini-map and not see anyone moving. It's kind of unnerving a little bit, but it does look like everyone is going to be taking this a little more seriously, I think. Although it looks like there might be a potential for an invade, but it doesn't look like that is actually going to happen.
We are beginning to just see a little bit of movement around the map as camps are about to spawn. We are actually seeing Sejuani head down for the blue buff start instead of the red. We were expecting that, but it looks like she was just waiting there in case Kha'Zix ended up trying to steal her red. Therefore, we saw the Kog'Maw actually get the blue buff there. Was that a mistake? Sejuani is still at level 1, unlike Kha'Zix, who's at level 2 and preparing to roam. These little things can actually make a world of difference in these games.
Right, and yeah, we're going to have to see whether or not Kog'Maw is actually going to be able to take advantage of that blue buff, because if you're going to accidentally take that blue buff, you need to essentially spam your abilities as much as you possibly can. The problem is, Kog'Maw doesn't completely need that blue buff until he has access to his ult, and by that point, that blue buff will be gone. So, I guess Sejuani is going to have to work hard to make up for that deficit. Right now, she is still level 1, even though she's cleared the Wolves camp, and now Kha'Zix is going for that red buff, and he should actually be able to win this fight pretty handily. Oh, and there we go. We got the Ignite from the Orianna, giving her first blood over Sejuani. Sejuani is still level 1. By the time she comes back, Kha'Zix will be at least level 3. So will Orianna. It's not looking so great for Final Light Gaming starting off already.
And one of the very important things is looking at that Orianna. She burned both summoners. This is a small gap that Vladimir has where Orianna does have a slight amount of weakness, and he will have to capitalize on this immensely if he wants to make this lane go even. This Orianna, however, has been playing phenomenally through the series. Last game we saw her on Cassiopeia, and we are expecting even more results on this Orianna this game, as that Cassiopeia game was exceedingly well played with very few mechanical or team fighting errors made through the entirety of the game.
Right, and it's going to be kind of interesting to see how Sejuani, goes through her jungle path right now, because it looks like she just went and got the Scuttle Crab, and now she looks like she might be invading, but like I said, it's not necessarily a good idea for her to do that. She is behind in levels by quite a bit right now, and wow, Vlad goes ahead and gets the kill after following Orianna under tower. Meanwhile, up top, Kha'Zix is there, and after a flag and drag, J4 is able to get out of a kind of terrible situation.
That is what we were talking about earlier. We are seeing a little bit of action in the bot lane with some damage going on to Kog'Maw, but returning to that mid lane, Orianna's summoners spells were down. Vladimir knew he had to take advantage, especially because Orianna had not gotten the advantage of the back from that kill. They were at equal items. He had the advantage in summoner spells, and he took it to the extreme, executing a beautiful tower dive using his blood pool and that empowered lifesteal on his Q to sustain through the tower damage, as well as the crit on it to finish her off. Exceedingly well played, and we're hoping to see a lot more of that sort of thing from Vladimir this game, especially if he wants to take that lead he's now gotten in CS and escalate it even further.
Right, and it is kind of interesting to see what Vlad went ahead and bought on his first back. He got a refillable potion, and he also got some cooldown boots as well, boots of lucidity. Yeah, that's it looks like he definitely has a plan moving forward, and I'm kind of curious to see what he's going to end up doing, considering he didn't actually build any damage moving forward. And now it looks like we have a fight in bot. I'm going to say Kog'Maw just barely able to avoid the stun from Taric. And while that wasn't necessarily a horrible trade, Kog'Maw did lose half of his health. So this is definitely not good moving forward for him.
Top lane, however, is slightly, very, very slightly, though, leading in favor of the Jarvan. Right. We are seeing him, with his early game damage, able to take on this Malphite. While he is an AD champion and Malphite excels at stacking armor, Malphite cannot match the raw damage output through poke and auto attacks that Jarvan can. Plus, the instant engage ability with that flag and drag makes Jarvan a formidable opponent. But now that level 6 has been reached, Malphite, if Jarvan ends up going for a mistake play like a turret dive, would be able to counter with his ult. Jarvan burns his, but Malphite just burns his flash and walks away.
Right. Definitely J4 came out way on the positive side of that whole trade. He also has a chance to kind of go back in and start that fight back over if he wants to, but they're a little bit closer to top tower right now, so they probably won't, work towards that. That being said, how exactly do you think what exactly do you think the Sejuani should do right now? Should they be focused on farming, or do you think that they should kind of work towards trying to get towards one of these lanes to try and kind of shore up things as the game is progressing? Because like you said, J4 has the lead, but he could have a bigger lead if Sejuani ganked. Vladimir has a lead, but he could probably do a lot better. Oh, and we got Sejuani coming in on Orianna. Looks like Orianna probably is going to... Whoa! And Orianna's able to get the kill on the Sejuani, but Vlad's able to get the kill on Orianna. At the same time, I don't know if that was necessarily worth for the Sejuani, because it looks like things are definitely going to slow down for her in terms of being useful in a lot of these team fights moving forward.
I would have expected the Sejuani to try to power farm, actually, until she had level 6 to securely get those kills without having to risk her going in bodily for those engage potentials that can end up slipping right through your fingers, especially if Orianna, like they did, just does a simple sidestep and then counters with the ult, making it so much more difficult for Sejuani to land that crucial stun. But one of the interesting things from the Vlad is that build he had is paying off. It may not seem like it at first, but that is actually an exceedingly clever build. He grabbed the Doran's Shield first item. That is going to reduce Orianna's incredibly potent basic attacks that are generated from her passive, giving her AP on those. However, the Boots of Lucidity were also not expected. One of the things that Boots of Lucidity does for Vlad especially is it allows him to heal more frequently. That 10% cooldown reduction is actually huge early game, as Vladimir needs that move speed in order to be able to make the engage plays and the aggressive plays against that Orianna. And that cooldown reduction means he can heal more frequently and get out more damage on that Orianna. It may not seem as conducive to winning the lane as straight damage would at first, but Vladimir early levels is exceedingly limited by his cooldowns, and lowering those early has definitely helped him out in this lane.
Right, and you can definitely tell that right now, because it seems like Orianna is playing a lot more passively than she was before. Vlad now has the capacity to kind of start roaming, as he is able to push in that lane pretty easily and pretty quickly as a result of his current item build. And we're gonna probably see some more effort by Vlad to kind of take advantage of some stuff, but it looks like Kha'Zix and Malphite are kind of just waiting in the wings, waiting for Vlad to make a mistake. And here comes Orianna with the ult. Now Malphite's coming in, and it might be a little too late for the Malphite. Oh, but Sejuani is there to help. The TP coming in for J4. J4 goes ahead, does the flag and drag, knocks up Malphite, and now he ults. Orianna has the flash to get out. Malphite is doing his best to get out, but he's not going to be able to. Vlad gets the kill and definitely is about to show the power of Vladimir for that team composition. While earlier I did mention that Kog'Maw was probably one of the more important aspects of this team, Vlad is definitely not getting that message that I said earlier and is doing his own thing to the point where he's going to become a significant problem for Los Payasos moving forward.
And let's just look at that gold lead he now has. He has over 600 gold advantage on this Orianna. That is not quite a blasting wand, but most of the way there. That is a significant AP advantage if he wants it, or in this instance, it's going to be a significant burst damage advantage, as with that Hextech Gunblade, he looks and is actually finishing up his Hextech Proto Belt right now. That means he is able to make those more aggressive plays with that extra engage range, forcing Orianna to be on a back foot through even more of laning phase. She will have to very frequently choose to either CS or to get damaged by Vladimir. And getting damaged by Vladimir with how he's been playing is not a decision Orianna can do very frequently, as he engages on her and half healths her with readily, very, very readily.
Right. And also kind of looking at that, considering Vlad is doing pretty well in terms of the damage department, I think that Final Light definitely needs to start making a move towards bottom. If to only kick out Tristana and Tarek, but mainly to go ahead and try and get that Inferno Drake, because right now Vlad could, oh wow, that was quite a bit of damage done in that one little trade. But yeah, Vlad could definitely use that damage amplification right now. Kog'Maw is currently in the process of building a Rage Blade, but at the same time, Vlad getting a little more fed, a little stronger, based off the fact that you have a permanent buff that's not an item. You can't turn that down. It looks like Sejuani is starting to make a move towards there, but they ping out the fact that they know that there's a ward there. But yeah, they definitely need to start making a move towards this Inferno Drake before Blue finds the opportunity later on.
Yes, and let's look again at this Vladimir. He's winning the trades with the Proto Belt engage and with the Empowered Q. When he has that bar fully completed, he has a brief window of time in which his damage spikes to tremendous levels, both increasing the healing done on him as well as increasing the damage he does to his opponents.
And we got a little bit of a wet noodle fight up top right now. Lots of auto attacks going on between Malphite and J4. Malphite decides to go ahead and Kha'Zix comes in, he jumps and gets the last kill, or last hit on this J4. Meanwhile, Vlad goes ahead and gets that dragon. He knew how much or how important that dragon would have been. It's kind of actually interesting to see that Vlad and Sejuani were able to take that. But now it looks like they're going to go ahead and dive bot with Sejuani and Vlad along with Kog'Maw and Lulu. But it also looks like the blue team, Los Payasos, is going to be able to go ahead and get that first brick gold, which is definitely going to help them in terms of trying to keep the advantage that they have a little bit over Final Light right now.
But with that turret falling, that tilts the gold back very, very close to even. There is barely a gold lead going on in this game. However, the Vladimir is the big source of power right now for Final Light. The real question is, what are they losing out on in order to have that Vlad power? The answer is in their jungle. We see a fight going down now, and it is very
ooh, wow, and this Orianna gets a quick destructive shockwave to come through. She gets the kill on this Sejuani, and Sejuani is starting to kind of slow down and become more of a liability in this situation. She definitely needs to kind of get herself a little more up to speed. She needs more tank stats right now. Orianna's, while she is not necessarily super strong on the AP side right now, she only has a few items, nothing completely built. That does not mean that she is not something that you should be indifferent to in terms of her damage output. Orianna will completely destroy someone who doesn't have the magic resistance necessary to live through a lot of her abilities, and that definitely showed right then. Hopefully Sejuani is going to be able to get a chance to either farm or help someone by getting assists or potential kills in order to start getting those tank stats back, because she definitely needs this. Kog'Maw is completely reliant on her getting that tank stats.
And we are, with that kill, seeing the gold swing in favor of Los Payasos again. This is a far closer match than last time, and both teams are definitely still in this, but the win conditions that Final Light had just a few moments ago, with that Sejuani getting caught out, are continuing to diminish as that tank is becoming a vulnerability.
Right. That's not to say that Sejuani, of course, wouldn't be too helpful in a team fight. She always still has her ult. She does have her knock up. She has all of her abilities that definitely make her quite useful, especially involving CC. She is a great CC platform, but at the same time, and here we go. J4 thought he was by himself, but Malphite runs out of the bush and says hi. And here comes Tristana. She comes in, throws down explosive charge, throws some shots off, and is unable to get the final killing blow on Kog'Maw. However, Kog'Maw is going to need to retreat and recall back to base in order to heal up from that offensive action by Tristana.
Not to mention that, but he had to blow Barrier as well. That's a huge ability. It's a summoner spell within 180-second cooldown. Short for a summoner spell, but long compared to how...
And here comes Vlad. Vlad goes ahead and pulls out. He's able to get out of that situation, and the explosive charge is not going to be enough to kill him. However, Sejuani is able to kind of hold these guys off. And here comes Kha'Zix running in at the speed of sound. I don't know if he's going to necessarily be able to get out, but he is not. Kog'Maw goes ahead and gets the kill, and he starts his progression towards being a hyper carry. Meanwhile, Sejuani goes ahead, dives in, gets caught by the Taric ult, or Taric stun, and Taric goes ahead, ults. They get this mid outer tower. Sejuani goes ahead and goes down. Sejuani, J4 goes ahead and tries to dunk. He does potentially get Orianna, but it's not enough, and it looks like Lulu is going to go down as well, and it looks like Kog'Maw is going to go down as well too. It's going to be a 5-1 ace in favor of Los Payasos after that team fight. Los Payasos is also going to take down a turret as well. This is definitely not a good sign for Final Light moving forward, as the gold lead has massively swung in favor of Los Payasos.
And Orianna was living on the razor's edge that fight. You saw how low she got so many times and for so long. But with that health back, when she gets kills and assists through the masteries she has, that is giving her just the edge she needs to stay in these fights.
Right.
Also, it was odd to me, not a game-changing mistake, but something that Final Light may be able to capitalize on is the fact that for now, for the next 5 minutes about, Malphite has a smaller engage range in that he burned his flash trying to escape.
And it looks like Orianna might be getting ready to die here. J4 goes and gets the last hit, even though I'm pretty sure Vlad would have been able to finish her off with that ult. But now, as a result of Orianna going down, blue team or Final Light is going to go ahead and get that tower. And it looks like Tristana definitely wasn't expecting the Sejuani ult to come down, and through really quick maneuvering, Final Light goes ahead and gets that pick as well. Looks like Inferno Drake is about to be up in a few seconds, and as a result, Final Light will go ahead and take that. In the meantime, Los Payasos is going to go ahead and take this Rift Herald to make up for the loss of that Dragon objective.
And this means that Los Payasos is going for the opportunity to get that map pressure and try to push down a turret with the Rift Herald. However, there is a huge stat boost coming through with 2 Infernal Drakes now in the pockets of Final Light. This is actually incredibly important for them, as with a Kog'Maw and Vladimir, stats are going to matter a lot late game. Especially boosting that AD by a small amount is going to help that Kog'Maw output so much more damage. And giving that Vladimir that extra bit of AP is going to mean he does more damage and heals more.
Right, and with the second Inferno Drake, actually, that's like a 16% damage boost on your stats, essentially. So whatever Vlad would have been doing, he's going to do at least 16% more damage. And depending on his item allocation, he can pretty much become a one-shot monster with the way that things are progressing at this moment. So hopefully Los Payasos is aware of this and they're able to kind of come up with a reactionary strategy to this. But if Final Light gets a Final Inferno Drake, chances are the game will probably end not too long afterwards.
And let's just check it. It's actually going to be a Wind Drake next, meaning that there is not going to be an Elder Drake up for at least, or a Infernal Drake up for at least another 12 minutes approximately,
right,
which is going to be the last possible Drake, but we have yet to see what that is. That could give Los Payasos an opportunity to come back if they secure, if it is an Infernal and they secure it for themselves, narrowing that damage gap. But it also could be potential for either the Air Drake or something to come back up again and make it so that Los Payasos is locked out of that higher damage cap that Final Light have at this point in time.
Right. And also kind of looking at how things are right now, looks like there is almost a, 3.6K gold lead right now for, at least a 3K gold lead for Los Payasos. That's quite a bit, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of that is going to be centered on maybe one or two champions. And it looks like Sejuani is going to go in. She unfortunately is unable to hit her ult, but Vlad is able to hit his ult. Right now, it looks like there is going to be a re-engage by Los Payasos. Malphite is going to ult in, and Orianna pops her ult and gets the kill on Lulu. Kog'Maw is so close to death right now, and so is Sejuani. J4 tries to hold off the enemy team, but he's unable to do so. Right now, Vlad is kind of by himself, running for his life. Doing the best he can, but I don't think he's going to be living too much longer as he runs towards the blast plant to try and get out of a really sticky situation. Tarek was running for him, but the ignite by the Orianna gets the kill, and it looks like that's going to be barren for Los Payasos.
That is exactly what Los Payasos wanted to try to get. They were looking for that opportunity for the Malphite ult and the Ori ult to hit that back line, and when they saw Sejuani, Lulu, and Kog'Maw all together, they went for it. That Malphite coming in from the back and the side, and Final Light was just not ready for that attack. And the damage that came through on that Orianna, they may have been behind earlier, but this player has been doing a phenomenal job of making sure they stay relevant in the game by affecting, getting assists, getting kills in areas that are not just on the Vlad against their lane opponent.
Right. And it looks like in bot lane, Kha'Zix is going to go ahead and let that Rift Herald go. I think the timer was pretty much up. That's why I released it so far back. Vlad's going to be able to get there and possibly keep that thing from taking down that bot outer tower. But at the same time, that's going to be Vlad going down there. Most of the damage is going to be on Vlad right now. So whether or not Los Payasos is going to be able to take advantage of this, I have no idea, but Orianna looks like she's there to make sure that that Rift Herald gets that tower. One tackle should do it, and it goes down. Right now, Kha'Zix and Malphite are flanking around the back end. Sejuani is completely unaware of where they are right now, and now it looks like Vlad is potentially going to get caught, but he is able to get around the flank. Right now, Rift Herald goes ahead, dives in, and looks like we might be getting ready to have a team fight here. Oh, and Sejuani lands her ult, but Tarek is there to land his stun as well. Vlad goes in, tries to throw down quite a bit of damage. Right now, Malphite's running with very low HP, so is Kha'Zix. I'm going to say the stun goes back down again, but J4 is able to take down Tristana. Looks like Orianna gets Sejuani. Malphite dives in on the Vlad, gets the kill on him. Kog'Maw goes ahead and gets the kill on Malphite. Meanwhile, Orianna just gets caught and left behind. Orianna gets caught and left behind. Kog'Maw goes ahead and cleans that kill up. And Kha'Zix is choosing to go for blue buff, even though Tarek is running for his life right now.
With Tarek able to escape like that, Kha'Zix really had no choice, because if he were to try to go in, they were too tightly knit for him to be able to make any successful pick. He chooses to keep his Baron buff and try to get waves pushing in other lanes, forcing no objective to be easily taken by Final Light Gaming. They may go for Air Drake, which will help their map rotation, but they're not the ones setting the tempo of this game. That honor is going to Los Payasos.
Right. And it looks like the next dragon is going to be a Cloud Drake, so there will probably not be another dragon moving forward after that, so it's going to be pretty much all Elder afterwards. But at the same time, that's 3, potentially 4 dragons for Final Light moving forward. More damage, more move speed. That is definitely not a good thing for Los Payasos to allow to happen. And here comes a stun from Tarek to stop the Sejuani going in. Sejuani throws her ult, unable to completely hit, but she is able to get those guys in the AoE. However, the rest of her team is unable to follow up on that ult.
And that's actually going to be huge as far as Los Payasos go.
And we got the shockwave from Orianna going in, takes down Vlad to about half health, as well as Sejuani, but that is going to be all of that.
And Sejuani, now ultless, does not have the ability to make the picks that they were able to earlier. That was the best time Sejuani was able to move around the map, was when she had her ult and was able to catch people like that Tristana out completely unawares and unable to counter with the rest of her team following.
And Malphite goes in, he dives in, and Sejuani gets ulted by Lulu to get out. Vlad is very close to dying here, and Tristana jumps out. Orianna goes ahead and goes down, but Kog'Maw goes ahead and takes down Kha'Zix. It looks like things are about to move completely in the favor of Final Light Gaming right now. They go ahead and get the 0-2 team fight, and they are pushing down mid, trying to get another objective.
And this Kog'Maw was not focused at all that fight. Vladimir was the target of the aggression. And one thing that you have to remember, especially when a Vlad is this far ahead, he has Zhonya's. That's invulnerability for a bit there. Then he also has his incredibly insane amount of lifesteal that comes in when his ult finishes completion and when he ends up hitting his enemies with his Q. That is incredible amounts of damage that end up getting him so much additional health as well.
Oh, and the stun goes down on the Vlad, but it looks like Tristana might have jumped in a little too far, and she goes down to the Lulu. Malphite is by himself right now. He's not going to be able to make it out of this. Kog'Maw gets the kill on Malphite, and that is going to be another 2-0 team fight in favor of Final Light. These are the things that they need to do in order to make a comeback. And they are definitely showing that they are not out of this game mentally or physically.
They figured out the play patterns that Los Payasos were going for, and now they have adapted themselves in order to prepare themselves. They were expecting that Tristana to go for the aggressive play. That's what the comp of Los Payasos is doing, and they were waiting, and they took advantage of it. 2 key teamfight members for Los Payasos fallen, and this Kog'Maw, when he's not focused, he is able to shoot attack after attack, and this Pugmaw is causing the enemy team to run away with their tail between their legs.
Right. I honestly was waiting for the Pugmaw comment to come out at some point, but nice to see that it was used in a very tasteful manner. But yeah. Los Payasos seems to have kind of lost a little bit of their, I don't know, I guess their calmness in this game. They seem a little more desperate or a little more focused on trying to make plays. And when you're trying to make plays in a situation like this against a team that's a little more patient, it's definitely not going to work out for you, because the patient team typically is the one that has the plan ready for people to be aggressive, and they're going to take advantage of those things when they come up. And here we go. It looks like Final Light is going in a little bit. Sejuani lands the hit on the Malphite, but chooses not to do anything else with it. Malphite is the tank. No need to focus the tank. However, it does kind of look like Final Light might be intending to move towards Baron. However, Los Payasos saying, you know what, you can go ahead and have Baron. We'll go ahead and take all your base while you're doing it. That forces Final Light to go ahead and try and back off from that situation.
And in that little engage from Sejuani there was actually a small misplay by Los Payasos. What we saw was the Sejuani went in, forcing them on their back foot, but they did not try to respond with any sort of damage onto Sejuani. Her passive gives her incredible amounts of armor and MR that need to be broken by an attack and then a short cooldown. Then she becomes exceedingly vulnerable to things like slows again.
Okay, and here comes the ult by Sejuani. They're going to go ahead and start this fight now. Vlad goes ahead and he's almost dead. And Malphite tries to ult in, but he didn't hit anyone necessarily. There's quite a bit of damage going through. Orianna gets the ult off. So many people are so close to death. Vlad heals by so much, and now Malphite goes ahead and goes down. Kog'Maw able to take that kill. Looks like Orianna is going to be going after everyone now. She gets the kill on Vlad. She gets the kill on J4. Sejuani is trying her best to keep everyone apart. And now Kog'Maw gets the kill on Tristana. Orianna gets the kill on Sejuani. Lulu is doing her part, trying to get the kill, or she gets the kill on Taric. And now it looks like it's going to be close. Orianna gets the kill on Kha'Zix, or gets the kill on Kog'Maw. But there we go. We got the last kill on Orianna, and now we have a 5-3 ace in favor of Los Payasos.
And one of the things that is of key importance is to note that they overstayed, and Los Payasos took full advantage of that. We had seen that Kog'Maw being able to sit back and not be focused those past fights, which is why they won. When he's able to sit back and output the raw damage, Kog'Maw is unmatched by any other ADC. However, when they were in a situation with only 2 squishy members at low health, he was expecting his damage to be able to shred them as effectively as if he had that front line, and them not to go full aggression onto his small, frail form.
Right. And you know, when Kog'Maw had his earlier, I'm not sure if people are about to get ganked, and J4 goes ahead and dunks Orianna. Orianna's kind of stuck in a really rough position. She is able to do some damage to J4, but J4 is able to finish her off. Tristana is trying her part to try and get some hits on everyone, but she immediately gets ulted by Sejuani, and in the meantime, it looks like Kog'Maw is trying to start a fight, but he gets ulted by Malphite. Malphite goes ahead and gets the kill on Kog'Maw. Vlad gets the kill on Tristana after all of that team fight earlier. Malphite is trying to get away from both Lulu and J4, but I don't know how long that's going to last. Meanwhile, Taric is running for his life from both Sejuani and Vlad up in top. He's doing a pretty good job, but I don't know if Malphite's necessarily going to get away in this situation.
And what we saw is the fact that right now, even without the Kog'Maw, that Vlad has so much damage, he can destroy the AD carry and the damage dealers that were against him on Los Payasos. Jarvan 4 now has the tank stats and the damage with Black Cleaver, with his basic Tiamat, as well as his heavy armor in Thornmail and Gargoyle Stoneplate. He can endure so much damage and so much abuse and still dish it out in turn. The Sejuani, with their ult, has been making the plays, coming back from that deficit. They were 0-2. Now they may have 5 more deaths, but they have 10 more assists.
Right. And the gap has been closed pretty much by Final Light in this game. They're only down 100 gold at this point. The significant advantage that Los Payasos had early on, around like 4K, just doesn't even matter at this point. Both teams are doing quite a bit of damage, and now with this last dragon up, it looks like things are about to get a little more frustrating, as Sejuani is here first. She doesn't know that no one's here, but Taric is going to go ahead and throw down the stun, and all the ults are coming down. Looks like Taric is trying to save the rest of his team. So much damage has been negated just then by that ult, and as a result, so many people died for Final Light Gaming. Los Payasos is going to go ahead and take this dragon, and in all honesty, they might be able to take a base tower off of that whole exchange.
And it may be a sneaky and somewhat underhanded strategy, but getting everyone into one bush, if the enemy doesn't have vision, pays massive dividends. 3 members from Final Light end up falling because of that misplay by Sejuani, not anticipating the assault from Los Payasos.
Say nothing like a good death bush to kind of get things flowing in your direction. And with that, the base is going to get opened up by Los Payasos. It's going to not necessarily look all that great for Final Light. They were doing so well just a few minutes ago. They can still pull a comeback from this, but they're going to have to get the same focus that they had before getting up to this point in order to do so.
It'll be interesting because the past tempo of the most recent fights has all been set by Final Light. They've been taking the advantages from it too. They have been reaping the benefits, winning fight after fight, and slowly pushing in and putting the pressure on Los Payasos. However, now with both teams having Air Drake, their approximate move speed across the map is going to be equal. Neither team has major advantage as far as global pressure due to abilities, meaning this is all going to come down to which team feels they are the playmakers, and right now, after that last fight, that is going to be firmly in the hands of Los Payasos as they're looking to try to possibly catch the Jarvan out of position. They are rotating through the river, but Jarvan is backing, it seems. It seems like he will likely back in time, and they are just quickly trying to snatch up some of those jungle camps to get themselves a little bit of an advantage.
Right, and it also does kind of look like things are about to come to a head now. It looks like Los Payasos is a little more inclined to group up right now. They made a bush full of wards to kind of figure out where people were, and now we have kind of like everyone sizing up the enemy team in the jungle right now. This probably is going to lead to a fight that will decide the course of this game. Right now, Los Payasos is moving up top. I'm going to say, meanwhile, you have super minions pushing in mid. This could lead to a really difficult situation for Final Light moving forward because someone's going to have to retreat to take care of those minions. And when they do, that's when things are probably going to get a little crazy in top. Orianna goes ahead and tries to throw down the ball in order to poke out some damage for Sejuani. Right now, Vlad was the one who retreated back towards the tower to take care of the minions, back towards the Nexus. It looks like now Los Payasos is waiting for the super minions to come, or the minions in top to come, so they can go ahead and make their move forward. And here we go. It looks like things are about to start now. So Sejuani taking a little bit, and Vlad with the flank. He comes in. Tarek immediately throws down the ult, and everyone on Los Payasos is in full retreat, but J4 goes ahead, gets the flag and drag, takes down Orianna. Orianna stuck in between a rock and a hard place. I'm going to say Sejuani is trying her best to stay alive, and in this situation, Vlad, meanwhile, going around flanking the backside again, comes through with the troll pool and gets the kill on Orianna. Los Payasos, again, is in full retreat right now. And as a result, J4 is going to go ahead and teleport bot, but it looks like Kha'Zix is making his way towards the Nexus towers, trying to sneak around. Vlad gets another kill on Tristana as this is all progressing. Meanwhile, Tarek and Malphite are running for their lives. Again, Kha'Zix is going after their base right now. Someone needs to respond to that. Malphite's doing the best he can to hold off Final Light Gaming, but at the same time, Kha'Zix was able to take down one of the Nexus turrets as all of that fight was going down. It looks like Kha'Zix might actually die here. Meanwhile, in bot, now you have J4 getting the bottom inhib tower, and it looks like he might be taking down that bottom inhib as well.
And I was about to say at the beginning of the fight, that was a fight where Final Light, like the series, need a win to stay in the game, while at the moment, for that one, it seems that Los Payasos needed it to just finish it off.
Oh, and Oriana gets blown to pieces by the J4 ult. It looks like this might actually switch in favor of Final Light Gaming. It looks like they're going to go ahead and take this victory, and they're going to force this game into they're going to force this series into a third game.
I was expecting not quite this divisive of a fight as the last members fall from Los Payasos, and then the Nexus is taken by Final Light, tying the series 1-1. Both teams doing a fantastic job.
We're going to say both teams doing a fantastic job, but in that game specifically, the only reason why that turn happened was because Vlad was able to get the flank around and was able to cause complete and total chaos in Los Payasos' back line. If he didn't get that flash initially, where he initially made everyone go into complete terror and full retreat, and if he did not come back in after Los Payasos was starting to think, all right, maybe we might be able to turn this back around, if he wasn't there to mess with them in that capacity, that game would have been over.
Absolutely, and just like the Cassiopeia on the mid lane of Los Payasos was the MVP of the first game, the clear MVP of that game for me was definitely the Vladimir. He made plays early, getting that Oriana slightly behind, but more importantly, he got himself the tools he needed to survive focus from the entire enemy team, thriving in the middle of the fight, healing up, doing so much damage, and chewing through the carries on Los Payasos, and that paid off.
And in all honesty, I'm really surprised that kind of it was kind of a really calm and directed call to tell J4 to go ahead and teleport bot. I honestly wasn't expecting him to get too much out of that, especially with Kha'Zix going ahead and pretty much going after the Nexus towers, trying to get the Nexus himself. But it was a really good call on Final Light in terms of sending that J4 bot. By the time that whole fight was done up in top, his team was able to come through. They were already at the Nexus towers. The entire team was essentially there, ready to go ahead and try and end that game. So whoever is the shot caller on Final Light, they definitely earned their right to be called the shot caller in that situation.
And they took advantage of the fact that Kha'Zix left the fight. After Kha'Zix left, that is a huge damage vulnerability on the Kog'Maw that is gone. And he was pushing mid lane.
Right.
Trying to push up, trying to get those Nexus turrets. And yes, he did get a Nexus turrets. Congrats on him. But he left the rest of his team vulnerable and trying to cover for him. They were trying to disrupt the backs of Final Light Gaming, stopping him. Meanwhile, one of their members, because they already had the teamfight lead, was easily able to sneak back and stop him. But they exposed themselves so much to that vulnerability of the numbers advantage that Final Light had. They were easily able to take out one of the remaining members and sweep the victory for them with that Jarvan teleport.
Right. So with that exciting game closed, we're going to go ahead and take a small break while we get this third game of this Final Light Los Payasos game ready. We're looking forward to seeing you guys for this next one because so far this series has been super exciting. So we hope you are going to be excited for it as well. We'll see you in a few minutes.
I recommend skipping.
And we are seeing the first bans come out in this third and final game, again between Los Payasos and Final Light. Final Light once again on the red side, as it seems Los Payasos chose blue side for that early power pick. We are seeing some of the same early bans in Nocturne and Janna, but the bans are changing up slightly, as now we see Oriana, Lulu, and Sejuani.
Right, and definitely reflective of how things have been progressing. We see that the Rakan ban came back out again, especially after Rakan's dominating performance in the first game. Oriana immediately getting banned after her performance in the second game. Sejuani getting banned, even though she was not necessarily as upfront as Vlad was in that last game. She definitely did have a massive impact in terms of team fighting throughout the entire time. She might have been behind, but she did cause quite a bit of commotion whenever she ulted or went in on anyone in particular. So all of these bans, Lulu also included with that, definitely reduces the chance of seeing a Kog'Maw in this game moving forward. And it looks like that is definitely going to be the case here, as Caitlyn is picked up instead of Kog'Maw, and Nami is also picked up as well.
Caitlyn Nami bot lane is very potent. It is exceedingly powerful at pushing that early game advantage and just throwing wave after wave of minions under the tower. That means that the opposing bot lane for Los Piasos will have to either choose to A, let their tower take the minion aggro and possibly lose some CS, or B, take the aggro themselves and damage from Caitlyn as well.
Right. And we have a Varus pickup as well. So now it looks like we have a J4 and a Thresh, allowing the Varus to pretty much shoot from the back. That being said, it looks like Los Payasos is going to be running a kind of a fortress composition where they have a front line and a back line. However, it looks like Vlad is going to get picked up by Final Light Gaming again. I'm not necessarily sure if Los Payasos was comfortable with that, or if that accidentally slipped through. But we are going to be it's going to be very interesting to see how this is going to proceed moving forward, because Vlad was essentially the playmaker of that last game.
One thing that we are noting here is that Ahri ban has been very consistent. To me, that strikes as a far more targeted ban at Platypus, the mid laner for Los Payasos.
Right. And it looks like an Urgot ban was also picked up as well. Again, another champion from game one that proved to be pretty difficult to handle. A Warwick ban that, again, kind of seems like that's more directed, as we haven't seen Warwick in any of these games so far. And it looks like we have one more ban getting ready to come up now.
One thing to note is this Jarvan may be jungle, it may be top lane. He is very functional at this point in time in both of those roles. While he is more common top lane in the current state of the game, he is by no means a bad jungler and is able to make those aggressive plays throughout the map with that engage in the flag and drag combo. Something that would be very effective to have that highly aggressive engage bot lane, engage jungler helping out the bot lane, especially if you're trying to get away from this Caitlyn and Nami early game power.
Right.
We are about to see a lock-in. We don't know of who yet from... It seems like it's a Trundle. We have seen Trundle both jungle and top. So 2 flex picks. It maybe they're going to try to match wherever that Jarvan is, or maybe they're going to try to avoid wherever that Jarvan is. I don't know that matchup exceedingly well.
Right. And Trundle kind of makes a little more sense in this situation, as right now Thresh, while he's not necessarily a full tank, most of the time, he does have some tanky tendencies in terms of his build. J4, same thing. And we have a Rise pickup, which is kind of interesting. I don't think we've seen too many Rises this tournament. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to manage against this Vlad, especially considering before it was an Oriana. So, yeah, I'm going to say that definitely is going to infuse some new thoughts into the game. Oh, wow. And a Renekton is picked up as the final pick for Los Payasos.
That's going to mean that the Renekton is going to be top lane. Jarvan looking to jungle, unless I am wildly off in this assumption. That will mean that they have an aggressive early game damager top lane, which it seems that Final Light will have to look to match. We're about to see the final lock-in of the game, as it's a Gragas Trundle going up against the Renekton, able to steal some of his early damage and health, but Renekton is still a powerful early gamer who could have that edge over Trundle. Gragas versus Jarvan, that's the jungle matchup. What are we thinking about that?
I'm thinking it's going to be pretty good. Okay, I was waiting for that last trade because I was kind of worried for a second. I didn't know if they were really going to try this Thresh jungle situation. But in terms of Gragas and J4, one wants to keep everyone together. One wants to kind of break things apart. It's kind of can go either way. But at the same time, both of them do have quite a bit of playmaking potential. I honestly think that J4 would have a lot more playmaking potential because his stuff is a little more, I don't know, it gives me a little more confidence in terms of what he's able to do. Not only is he going to be able to gank someone, but he's also going to be able to buff the people in that lane with his flag as the gank is progressing. Gragas is pretty much just going to stay alive for quite some time because he heals every time he uses spells, or he heals based off the spells that he uses. So, like I said, if anything, I got to give it to J4 in terms of the matchup, but at the same time, Gragas is going to be pretty significant moving forward as J4 ulting can easily be disrupted by a Gragas ult.
I completely agree. J4 definitely has the advantage, especially in the early jungle levels. One of the key things about Jarvan in this matchup is his engage is more consistent. When you can flag and drag as a set of abilities that is very consistent engage from quite a distance. However, it does have slightly more counterplay than Gragas's long range engage, which is his E and then flash in the middle of it, so you get that explosion of damage as you disrupt them with your belly attack.
Right.
I couldn't remember the name of the ability.
It's a body slam. Yeah.
It is that body slam is very potent at covering ground, and when you use the flash on top of someone else, there is no time to react. Therefore, it can be a very, very powerful tool, but it has a far longer cooldown for that playmaking potential. Moving into mid lane, we see an actually really interesting matchup. Vladimir has a lot of sustain, but his very early damage is not something that he excels at. While he did end up killing the Orianna last game, that was more of an exception to the rule due to the vast difference in their summoner spells at that point in time. Arise, however, will be able to sustain through the early levels of Vladimir's aggression and be able to build himself up. Also, a key thing is that Rise has a 2-second root when he flux and then rune prisons his target. This can mean he can force the Vladimir to not pursue him if Rise is getting low, or he can actually cause picks to be made on people like Caitlyn if they're caught out. Something that with Varus's ultimate is going to be an excellent opportunity for their team.
Also, you got to take into consideration the fact that you can literally warp your entire team around the map thanks to Rise's, I don't know, what number?
Realm warp.
Yeah, I was about to say, what number ult is this in terms of reworks?
Third, I believe.
Okay, yeah. So based off his third iteration of his ultimate, he's able to warp his entire team around the map. Look forward to seeing him take advantage of that at some point. To cause really, really difficult situations, really odd flanks, pursuit that just doesn't seem to end. Rise has the capacity to be quite creative if the user actually knows what they're looking for in terms of the situation and whether or not they're able to react quick enough to actually make it happen. So we'll see we'll learn more about the creative mind of Platypus as this game progresses.
And we are seeing in the bot lane, as we've mentioned before, that Varus Thresh matchup versus Caitlyn Nami. In my mind, early levels, Caitlyn and Nami are going to have to push their advantage in order to secure any sort of lead, because when it hits 6, that corrupting chain from that Varus is going to be exceedingly potent, because if he can land that on either the Nami or on the Caitlyn, that is consistent amount of time that the lockdown is around, because it can easily be chained into Thresh's hook, into a Flay, and into Thresh's ult for an incredible amount of slow, making it nearly impossible to escape if that initial CC hits you.
And it's actually kind of funny right now because the Rise skin is actually the skin that you get when you win a Riot-sponsored event. So it's kind of funny to see that Los Payasos is definitely running that Rise skin, kind of showing that we've been to the top of the mountain before. We know what the view looks like. So get ready for a massive fight moving forward.
we are seeing some engage play, looking possibly to get an advantage in the early game, perhaps with an invade or a bush strategy. We are just going to have to wait a while to see if anything happens of it, as it seems Los Payasos have the exact same idea and are doing it on the bot side. They are rotating up through river. We'll see if anything comes of this, if anyone ends up getting too close to the others.
Uh-oh. Yeah, and it still looks like things are going a little funny, but it looks like everyone is going to meet in a second. Thresh is leading the charge right now, and here comes... Oh, and there goes the Caitlyn, and the hook lands on the Caitlyn, and it looks like she's going to go down. Varus is going to get first blood. I didn't think that hook was going to be long enough, but it was just the right length to make sure that that kill would happen.
And that Varus getting that early first blood. 400 gold in pocket, buys a longsword. That's going to be a nice AD advantage, especially for those early level trades and that early level pushing. Going to be really setting that Caitlyn Nami off significantly behind in a matchup they need to be ahead in.
Right, especially going into that matchup again. Varus and Thresh, that's going to be a poke kill lane versus Nami and Caitlyn. That's going to be a poke sustain lane. In all honesty, kill will definitely do quite a bit against the sustain. The poke lane aspect is supposed to beat the kill lane aspect, because by the time the kill lane is ready to go in, and it looks like J4 is coming through with an early gank on this Vlad. They know that they don't like Vlad, so they're throwing down as much damage as they can. They go ahead and get the kill. Both of them flash to get that kill on Vlad. Rise didn't take any damage from Vladimir, and as a result, he gets executed by the tower. That was all in favor of Los Payasos in that trade, and it looks like they definitely have a strategy moving forward to go ahead and take down this Vlad.
And that is something people don't anticipate. The early game power that is inherent in level 2 Jarvan ganks. When you can take one buff and then roam mid, you have your red buff for the slow effect on auto attacks. You have your flag and drag for the engage and knock-up potential, and when you combine that with someone like Rise, who is running exhaust for a summoner spell to make sure Vladimir can't do damage and can't get away, and then also takes that early level 2 rune prison, we're talking about a massive amount of lockdown and no way for Vlad to escape it, as he does not yet have his blood pool.
Right. And we got a fight in top. Renington was doing quite a bit of damage to Trundle. Trundle is going to go ahead and back out and try and heal up a little bit off the minions and off his health potion. But yeah, again, I was worried about the whole Vlad pick, just because it seemed like Vlad was a little more controlling in terms of like the game outcome than Los Payasos would definitely want to have, but it seems like they definitely came into this game with a plan to specifically handle him moving forward. So Final Light, I hope that they aren't necessarily thinking that they're going to get more of the same, because Los Payasos is definitely not going to allow that to happen.
And we are seeing now an early game lead in the two roles we would expect, in the Rise and in the Varus. We are seeing a little bit of a gold lead in the jungle as well, but giving that extra head start to the two main carries on the team is going to put Los Payasos leaps and bounds ahead of Final Light Gaming in this matchup. And it's going to be crucial for Final Light Gaming to try to make the plays with that Gragas to get back in the game and shrink that gold lead.
Right, and I don't know if that was necessarily a good fight to start for this Trundle. He's definitely taking quite a bit of damage, and Rise is throwing down all the damage he possibly can on this Gragas. Gets the kill on Gragas. Vlad is kind of in a impossible situation. He's not really able to do too much more, and if he gets too close, he's gonna get flagged and dragged again with a rune prison followed up right behind him, and this time he's not gonna be able to get out of that.
Rise is playing like a machine gun with his abilities. And we saw the Renekton taking the early damage advantage and really starting to push this Trundle out of lane as we were expecting. The one matchup that was significantly in favor of Los Payasos is also paying dividends, rather than the neutral matchup, which is also now at a 2-kill lead and a 6 CS lead over this Vladimir, who continues to be pushed further and further back. Now that Rise has the blue buff from Gragas's death to him just a few short minutes ago, he now is able to sustain in lane, not having to worry about the mana costs associated with his abilities, picks up the early tier, and is looking to really secure his late game advantage early.
Right. And, Rise takes a little bit of time in order to take off, and most instances, most of the time it takes it until after he gets his tier. He has a pre-6-minute tier. So everything from here on out is probably going to be more damage related, and that's when things are about to get really bad for Final Light in terms of having to deal with Rise. Remember, Rise does have the capacity to essentially teleport all around the map whenever he wants to. There is a chance that he may all of a sudden start ganking once he pushes out his lane, and if he does do that, he's going to have some power behind him when he does that, leading to quite a few deaths for Final Light if they aren't careful.
And we are seeing some absolutely fantastic play from this Jarvan, just going around the map and working to secure those advantages.
And the hook lands on Thresh, and now Caitlyn is taking damage as she is. And here comes Rise. He's not going to let them get out. Caitlyn gets almost flag and dragged, but again, that was exactly what I was expecting. Rise teleports in with J4, gets the kill on Caitlyn, makes Nami go into full retreat, and now it looks like there's going to be an Inferno Drake going to Los Payasos.
And they're trying to wait in bush just to see if they can make anything.
Oh, and it looks like J4 predicted that. There was no ward in that bush to let them know that anything like that was going to happen. J4 flag and drags in, catches the Gragas completely off guard, and leads to his death thanks to a Thresh hook.
And that was fantastically played by Los Payasos. We are seeing them take the advantages of that Rise Realm Warp. We were expecting to see the Rise come down, and they were expecting just to see the Rise. But with the Jarvan there too, there is no escape opportunity for the Caitlyn, and they keep on snowballing the leads that they have into more and more of a gap. And we are seeing a 3K difference between these two teams before the 8-minute mark.
Definitely not a good sign for Final Light. I think that besides the fact that Los Payasos might be a little more focused, Final Light definitely needs to remember that this is a final match, essentially. They gotta kind of stop the bleeding right now. Otherwise, this is going to snowball way out of their control before even the 15-minute mark.
And right now, with the differences in gold, that is all going to come down to how the top lane matchup is played. That is going to be the least significant gold difference in the game. And it's still 300 gold in favor of the Renekton. This is incredibly dire straits right now for Final Light. They are going to be able to make up for it, but their big thing they're looking for right now is a mistake to be made.
Right. And, I mean, that definitely was what caused Final Light to go ahead and take that victory in that last game. So it's not like they can't necessarily make a comeback. It's not necessarily impossible, but it is going to take quite a bit of focus, quite a bit of map control, quite a bit of vision in order to make that actually happen. And it looks like we have another gank coming down bot. You see Rise and J4 moving in. Here comes the Rise with the teleport. Caitlyn throws down the traps, but she gets caught out by the Rise. And that is the end of Caitlyn again. She is now 0-3, with this Varus being 3-0-1.
And the power of that 2-second rune prison, when you take just a small, brief moment of time to set up and sacrifice a small bit of damage on Rise, you get so much more pick potential. And if your team is there to back it up, that exceeds all expectations of enemy combatants as to what they're going to expect to have happen.
Okay, and Trundle is starting to fight with this Renekton, but at the same... Oh, wow, that flash bite gets the kill on Renekton, so now there's a little bit of an advantage on this Trundle. Definitely going to be a little helpful for his team in terms of trying to make this comeback happen. However, it might be getting to the point where it's a little too late, as currently the Final Light is down 4K gold after that immediate gank in bottom with the Rise. Like I said, Rise is going to pretty much start doing his own thing once his lane starts to push in, And unfortunately, this is definitely going to be hurting Final Light Gaming moving forward. And Rise throws down a little bit of his combo and throws down quite a bit of damage, actually. Forces Vlad to back out, but thanks to Nami, she throws down a few heals on this Vlad and is able to get him back up to health where he can stay and help defend.
Something that is very important is to note that right now, top lane is even. That is the best that Final Light can do right now. And they're going to have to figure out a way of playing around this Trundle and hoping that one of the two of Renekton or Jarvan takes and tries to build immense amounts of health for that Trundle to sap up with his Subjugate.
Right. Although I'm not going to lie, I don't think you necessarily want to build a team around the Trundle in a situation like this just because there's too much stuff coming at him. Like between Rise being so fed right now, Rise still isn't building damage.
Yeah.
But he's building all of the items that he needs to get damage very quickly. Right now he has a Catalyst that's probably going to lead to a Rod of Ages really quickly. The next items that he needs to build for those two things to work are damage items.
Exactly, and we are seeing him with quite a bit of damage.
And Vlad is going in on Rise. It looks like Vlad actually does have that advantage, but nice double flash. Gragas goes in for the body slam, and he tries to flash into him, but Rise is able to get out of that situation. However, Gragas gets dunked by J4, and it looks like he's going to be able to barely make it out, but no. J4 is able to get the kill before Gragas is able to get away, and yeah, it's still just not moving in favor. And Rise looks like he might be able to get the kill on Vlad, and he is able to do so.
That rune
and the hook goes down on Caitlyn up top, and now she's stuck in a prison, but she's able to flash out and get out. But Nami is probably not going to make it if things continue like this, and Thresh gets the kill on Nami. So Caitlyn is forced to kind of back off of the tower, otherwise she is going to die very quickly.
And this game is coming up aces for Los Piajos, and they are playing it to their strengths just like they need to be. We're seeing this Rise. Rise may not have as big of base damages as most other champions, but the thing with Rise is he can cast those abilities with much faster and much more frequently than any other champion except for maybe Cassiopeia mid lane.
Right.
And when he has the ability to cast so freely without having to worry about long game lane consequences of burning his mana early because of that early tier of the goddess, and with that Rod of Ages that he's gotten by 13 minutes, that is going to be massive for this Rise, as he can essentially, without consequence, commit full combos and have the pressure with his team there in lane to back him up. And playing with the Jarvan and that 2-second root early was huge as far as securing that lead, and Rise has been taking full advantage of what the Jarvan has given him.
And it looks like this mid outer tower is going to go down for Final Light, so Los Piajos is going to have a turret advantage right now, and they look like they're also going to be moving more towards this dragon. Get this Earth Dragon. This is definitely going to be helpful for them as they start to take objectives later on. However, it's definitely not something that Final Light Gaming wants to give up in this situation, because right now Los Piajos has the damage to do whatever they want. And here comes the teleport by Rise. He takes Varus with him, and essentially now we have a team fight. And the disengage by Nami, but Renekton is there. He throws down the stun, and now things are getting really awkward. Vlad's stuck in a really bad position, and that is going to be the end of Vlad. Renekton's going to go ahead and get the kill. It looks like there might be a bit of a rotation towards this Rift Herald, and that is going to be the end of that. It looks like Final Light's going to have to back off and let these guys go ahead and take this objective. Say things are not looking so great for Final Light right now. They are currently down a pretty substantial margin in terms of gold. It is almost, 8K gold right now. At 8K gold at 15 minutes is definitely not a good sign of things to come if you continue to play that way. going to say Final Light needs to take a second to take a breather, kind of reset the map a little bit, and kind of get their bearings. Otherwise, I could only imagine that this is going to kind of snowball a lot more out of their control as time progresses.
One of the things that is very important here is they need to try to focus on preserving the defenses they have. They've lost 3 turrets so far, but they still have all of their inner turrets and everything beyond that. What they need to do is do their best to cause plays not to happen as much as possible throughout the field. Los Peajos is going to be doing their best to try to take advantage of that Varus, of that Thrush, of that Jarvan, and force these plays. But it's all going to be up to how Final Light is able to evade and pull back as these engages try to happen. And if they can do that, they can end up narrowing that gold gap down and end up having a fighting chance in this game. But still, right now they're looking for a mistake in order to get a big win.
Right. And although now I kind of do have to wonder, is there really any chance of them being able to capitalize off a mistake at this point? There's such a big gold lead right now that it almost looks like they need to be in late game in order to make that up. And late game is a significant distance away in terms of this game right now. This is only 16 minutes in with this big of a gold deficit. And here comes the Rift Herald ready to take down that tower, and it looks like Varus goes ahead and he ults in. Vlad is going after this Varus. Varus should be getting ready to go down from that Vlad ult, but looks like Thresh was able to save him. Thresh is possibly going to go down. I'm going to say so much health was lost on the Los Payasos side, but it does look like there is going to be a turret to go down thanks to the Rift Herald. Meanwhile, Rise is still in the same spot. He's trying to do his thing, trying to do his part. No one went after him apparently, so he is in a perfect position to kind of hold these guys off in terms of allowing his team to retreat.
And that may have, gotten them just a little bit of leeway, but they still lost the turret in the process and did not secure vital members, any of the members, in fact, from Los Peajos. And that is going to cost Final Light significantly, as there were so many low members of Los Peajos that did not die. That's going to be 300 possible gold they could have gotten from each of them that they are now not able to access until they wear those health bars all the way back down again.
Right. I'm saying at this point, I actually do kind of wonder if they were to get an ace, how much money would they get? There's quite a bit of money on the table because there's quite a few bounties at this point. So if Final Light can manage to get win a full team fight, that might actually cut down this lead by quite a bit of a margin. However, right now, we're almost at the 20-minute mark, and they're almost down 10K gold. They need to come up with something quickly in terms of a strategy moving forward. Otherwise, they're going to lose control of the map. When Baron comes up, that's the first thing that I'd expect Los Peajos to go ahead and get. When the next dragon comes up, I expect them to immediately take that. When any other objective comes up, red buff, blue buff, they're going to go ahead and take that. At that point, you're just doing a base defense. And I don't think you can necessarily survive a base defense when you're fighting against a team that's this strong already.
There is a play going up top.
I'm saying Brennington goes ahead, dashes in and dashes out, and loses half of his HP, but he might be all right from that.
But the teams are rotating up. This is going to be the next big siege by Los Peajos. If they're going to be able to assert dominance and grab this turret, that is going to be very, very big for them, especially if they can do it before Gragas ends up coming back. Because they are at a one-man advantage with 30 seconds till Baron spawns. But if Final Light can somehow squeeze out a teamfight with a solid victory, that could actually have the gold lead that Los Peajos currently have.
Right.
The amount of gold with a clean ace that is gained by the successful team is absolutely enormous and cannot be underestimated at all. And we have seen times when Los Peajos has gotten to the brink of disaster in those team fights. It's just they were in a lucky enough position where Final Light was just not able to close out on the kills. This time, Final Light is definitely going to be looking to make sure that does not happen again. But in the meantime, Dragon goes over to Los Peajos. That's an Infernal 2. 2 Infernals now on their side. That's going to be about a 24% damage boost on the carries.
Right. And, this is starting to get a little, like I said, if Los Payasos is able to just take objectives whenever they want to, that's essentially giving them the victory as well. Final Light needs to be here for this Baron. They need to fight off this Baron. They need to at least attempt to try and steal this Baron. If they don't do that, this is going to be it. And Gragas is able to take the Baron. Right now, Los Payasos is trying their part to make up for the fact that they just lost that objective. Gragas can't get out. He just chooses not to move at least. And now he's gone ahead and getting out, but he's died at the same time. Now it looks like Final Light is in full retreat, trying to take advantage of the fact that they were able to steal that Baron buff.
They may have been able to steal the buff, but look how many members they lost on the backside. With Trundle engaging there, Gragas had already gotten the Baron, but the rest of the team was not ready for that fight. And in doing so, he lost his life. Gragas was delayed too long because of the body slam cooldown and not having flash. At that point in time, he was forced to stay in there way longer than he wanted to be, ending up dying when flashes were burned on the side of Los Peajos, catching him out again. And then the Nami falling on the very back end of the fight. That's the support down. It's just 2 members left on Final Light that actually have the Baron buff. And those are 2 members that are 0 and 4 and 0 and 3 respectively. It's going to be very difficult to keep them alive as neither of them are tanks and both of them are so far behind.
Right. But that definitely does help with this lead difference by a little bit. Right now, they are only down about 8.4k gold right now. So, again, with it being close to being 10, and now it is less than 9, they're making the moves in the right direction. But like I said, they got to figure out something. Like, that was a part of the something that they need to figure out. Otherwise, this game is still just as lost as it was before the Baron.
But they are definitely going to have some siege protection as that Baron empowers the minions, making even the strong waves that are about to try to crash into the towers far less successful, as the Baron empowered minions have so much more durability.
Right.
We are seeing some rotation towards top lane, and Gragas burning his ult, trying to make sure he doesn't end up getting caught out by the rotating members of Los Peajos as the inner turret in top lane ends up falling, and Los Peajos look to continue their lead. But what are they going to be going for next? They have nearly a 10k gold lead and are looking to extend that further by taking more objectives. No objective is on the board at the moment for Final Light. They are looking in a lot of trouble, but we saw they are able to still make plays. And I am hoping that we are going to see them pull off an incredible play, hopefully catching one of the critical members of Los Peajos out of position.
That last tower actually pretty much negated the lead that Final Light was able to start, kind of coming back on. In fact, it kind of made things a little worse. So not really sure what else really to say here, but it does look like Los Payasos should start rotating towards bot maybe after they go ahead and take this red buff, although Varus didn't need it because he already had it. But hey, nothing like giving your ADC a refresher on his red buff. But yeah, I think that Los Payasos should be making a move towards bot. That seems like the easiest thing to go ahead and do. Brennington is already down there, so chance he might choose to want to split push, which is why everyone seems to be a little slow moving in that direction. But at the same time, there we go. We see everyone is actually moving in that direction to begin with.
And Varus is just chunking this tower for so much damage with his auto attack speed. One of the most underrated things about Varus is the passive part in his kit. It is like Jinx's ability in her passive, where when he kills an enemy combatant, he gets a massive amount of attack speed. Except, unlike Jinx, it does not go and apply only on champion takedowns. It is applied even when he takes down minions, giving him a smaller attack boost, but still very significant for trading in lanes as well as starting to push down objectives.
Right. And it looks like this is a kind of desperate defense for Final Light in this bottom inner tower. Right now, it looks like Los Payasos is going to be teleporting all the way to mid. Oh, geez. And now there's a panic to rotate all the way back to mid for Final Light. Nami goes ahead and throws down the wave to try and disengage Los Payasos from the tower. Rennington's taking quite a bit of damage, but they do get that tower. Rennington goes down. However, J4 is ready to go after this Vlad, and Trundle is looking like he wanted to kind of go in there, but he ends up just stealing stats and kind of stopping the progression into the base for Los Payasos. Although now it looks like Varus is going after this inhib. He's going to have to start backing up, and Vlad goes ahead and flanks again. You're going to say Rise goes ahead and gets the kill on Trundle and Gragas, but Vlad gets the kill on Varus. Thresh gets the kill on Vlad. Rise gets the kill on Caitlyn. Right now, Nami is running for her life. She's the last one left on Final Light's side, and it looks like this might potentially, depending on how much damage these guys are able to take, throw in to this tower, they might actually win this game off of that last team fight.
Death timers are still pretty short, but with 4 of the members of Final Light or of Los Peajos there and only 1, the support for Final Light, they're able to easily sweep in and take the Nexus with only a few seconds remaining on the recall timers.
And that is it.
That wraps up the game, and we saw an incredible and powerful performance by Los Peajos in this game. Just like in first game, they took the early game leads and they ran with them. Los Peajos is a team that you cannot give an inch because they will take a mile.
Right.
If there are games where Los Peajos ends up getting early blood for their mid laner, we have seen that guy so many games become a powerhouse late game when given a small amount early. He knows how to make his plays. You can see he has a diverse champion pool, playing 3 different champions each of the games and executing on them individually all very well.
Right.
We saw him just be an immense powerhouse for his team and make sure that other people also got the benefits of such plays. For example, when he used the Realm Warp, securing the kill on that Caitlyn for his ADC, making that lead go even further in the favor of Los Peajos.
And like I said at the start of that game, like that ultimate and that usage of that ultimate was going to show us a little bit of the creativity behind Platypus's mind and whether or not he was truly someone to be worried about on that Rise. And essentially, it came down to him using it to warp his entire team, minus the Thresh because he was too slow getting into the circle. He warped his entire team into the mid lane, forcing Final Light to scramble to rotate back towards mid. They had to throw everything they could at them once they got back to that tower just to even make them think about possibly retreating. But at that point, Rennington has said, no, I'm going to get this tower for my team. And once I get that, everything will work itself out. That's exactly what happened. Rise warping his entire team. Whoever made that call made the perfect call in that situation because that warp just completely took all the composure out of Final Light and ended up leading to a pretty decisive victory afterwards.
One of the very interesting things is when that Renekton fell, the tower fell with him, but it was still a 4 to 5 man advantage in favor of Final Light. However, they did make an aggressive play with the Vladimir, which has seen success doing that in the past. And although it chunked the enemy team, he did not have the amount of gold he did the prior game, overestimating his damage while his backline took so much brutality from that Rise who hit them with so much magic damage and rooted them down so they couldn't escape. The only member that was able to get away of those back 4 was the Nami, and she had to burn Flash to do that.
Right. And even in that point, once all of the damage was gone, there wasn't much she could do to keep the match going after that. Again, with that will be Los Payasos moving on to the finals. Right now, we have the way our tournament's set up is that there is a losers tournament as well as a winners tournament. You will see Los Payasos later on in the day as they are essentially the winners of the winners tournament, but they are not the winners of the grand final yet. So once we get back from our next break, which will probably take a little bit more time than average break, we will go ahead and finish out the rest of our matches in this tournament so we can go ahead and get you guys to that grand final where Los Payasos will be playing against the winners of the losers bracket. So with that, we want you guys to kind of keep us in mind for the next few minutes or next half hour or few, whatever we might need in order to get this next match set up. But we're looking forward to seeing you guys when we come back. So with that, we're going to go on break. We look forward to seeing you in a few minutes.
Big boy nerds gonna get 'em more. Living life for the next drop. Big boy nerds gonna get 'em more. Living life for the next drop.
I just wanna feel like this forever. I love it when my feet don't touch the ground, touch the ground. Don't wanna let these colors fade, kaleidoscopes inside my head. Just wanna feel like this, just wanna feel like this forever. I just wanna feel like this. I just wanna feel like this. I just wanna feel like this forever. I love it when my feet don't touch the ground, touch the ground. Don't wanna let these colors fade, kaleidoscopes inside my head. Just wanna feel like this, just wanna feel like this forever.
準備できた？
I'm running away from the past I left behind. I'm looking for answers, but I'm blinded by the light. I'm lost in the music, can I stay here for the night? I promise I'll be gone in the morning, out of sight and out of mind.
You draw me in, and I can't slow down, no. Can you feel it too? There ain't no stopping now. Feet off the ground, head to the sky. Yeah, wind by my side. You in my vision, directly we collide. You pull me in, I don't resist. Time seems to fly, but the clock doesn't tick. I crash into you, we both feel the hit. We both feel the way that our chemicals mix, and I wish that I just keep my eyes shut. Maybe this time it'll be enough. So I need the dark. Without you here, I wouldn't never see the stars. I'm headed for you. Put on the gas. I'm coming straight at you, no looking back. You are my star. We are connected, misdirected to the high. You are my star. We are connected, misdirected to the high. Then we collide. I'm here, I'm your statue. Your heart is a magnet, I'm coming at you. Girl, you're my target, I'm aiming at you. You're a comet, I'm trying to catch you. We can break any rule they ever taught you. Forget about anything they ever bought you. Cause me and you don't need a lot in this world to get by. Plus you know I got you, you pull me in. I don't resist, time seems to fly but the clock doesn't tick. I crash into you, we both feel the hit. We both feel the way that our chemicals mix. And I wish that if I just keep my eyes shut, maybe this time it'll be enough. So I need the dark. Without you here, I wouldn't never see the stars. I'm headed for you. Put on the gas. I'm coming straight at you, no looking back. You are my star. We are connected, misdirected to the high. You are my star. We are connected, misdirected to the high. Then we collide.
Rolling snake eyes. 1, 2